everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Tire Tracks podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Shoemaker, and welcome to this episode of our Intelligent Freight mini-series. Today, we've got a special guest, Mark Baxa, the president and CEO of CSCMP, joining us here on the call and on the podcast here. Mark, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Matthew, and it's great to be with you and your audience. And before we get too far into this, thank you, too, for your leadership and your company and their engagement with CSCMP. We're really glad to have you on board.
Yeah, you guys have been a great partner, and we love everything we've done with you guys so far, and couldn't think of anybody better to have on this episode here as we start to dive into this topic. But yeah. Let's see. So tell us just a little bit more about you guys. I won't, butcher the spelling of the acronym there for CSCMP, but tell us a little bit more about who you guys are, what you do. I'm sure everyone's aware, but if not, take the stage here a minute and kind of set that up.
Well, as the journey of supply chain became known over time, we started out as a national distribution materials management organization early in the 60s and then moved to the Council of Logistics Management, or CLM, in the early 80s, and then about the time of deregulation. And then in 2004, the board of directors, which I was a part of at the time, really cool experience, moved from CLM to the Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals, CSCMP, because it was important for us to move across the entire span of supply chain professionals. And that's who we are here for. Our members know that our mission is to connect, educate, and develop supply chain professionals throughout their career. And that includes academics, service providers, and shippers, or beneficial cargo owners and practitioners. And then outside of that are anyone that wants to be a part of our organization and learn about supply chain, sharpen their saw, as Stephen Covey would say. That applies to students, military, and you name it. So we also have a foundation inside of CSCMP that helps the overlooked and underserved populations engage in supply chain learning and development, called our Talent Center. So multifaceted, industry-specific, and supported organization for supply chain professionals around the world.
Wow, that's really, really great. It's cool to hear the evolution of it and how you guys have adapted. I think it's so critical to have an organization kind of adapt with the times and not just keep teaching the same thing over and over again. It's how fast this industry moves, how kind of quickly and out of date everything becomes from an education standpoint and from a job role standpoint.
Well, we want to be that organization where supply chain leaders and industry practitioners, service providers, educators come to actually help or engage in our content and our learning portfolio to help sharpen their skill sets as well. And that's why we exist. And if you don't move, if you don't evolve, you can't help. So that's really what we're all about.
That's great. That's a great segue as well into our topic for today's. It's a term that has shifted many times and evolved many times throughout the industry, and that's visibility. So really want to kind of pick your brain a little bit about visibility and kind of where it's gone and where it's come from. Mainly, when did it start to shift, and how would you define visibility today?
Well, where's my shipment became really cool 20 years ago with the advent of the internet and Fred Smith showing people how to not only do their own customer service at FedEx.com, but track their shipments. And it began to steamroll from there, right? So it's just like, where's my shipment? Well, it shifted recently when supply chain stopped being more predictable. And once congestion, geopolitical impacts, labor constraints, weather variability, and capacity whiplash became more normal, it was really location alone wasn't actionable. It wasn't enough. So it has to evolve into something more risk-based and intent signals that you'd likely to see, right, to give you an indication of what's next, what's about to happen, what did happen, but what's next.
Yeah, I love that. It's taking it from that static point in time and really making it something you can actually act on and kind of work through. So from that, how would you describe the differences between kind of freight data and really interpreting it? And so where does the difference lie in the two that you were just mentioning?
Well, you think about freight operations because milestones are more of a rear view mirror look. What happened? They tell you, after something's either been lost or has been put in place, right?
Yeah.
And modern operations now really need to focus more on warning signals, dwells, predictability around route deviation, facility congestion, patterns that could in fact affect a particular shipment or series of shipments so you
Hmm.
can intervene while there's still time to do that.
Yeah. And I could see that being impactful in so many different ways. You just touched on a couple of them, but the dwell times impacting obviously the customers who might be waiting on the freight and the customer relationship. Some of the risk factors as well, and interpreting some of the risk factors around the freight, whether it's fraud, theft, or spoilage, whatever it might be. Trying to get ahead of those things can be really helpful.
But absolutely. I think today's logistics operations are looked upon to not only help people understand time in full deliveries, but
Hmm.
where not only where things are at, but what's on the road ahead so that we can improve customer service and really, if people will promote your business to say,
Hmm.
this is the place I want to engage.
Yeah, absolutely. What role does the TMS play in that, and the technology providers that kind of support this and support the people that are running the show behind the scenes?
Well, you think about a TMS platform, they've obviously become much more robust and
Hmm.
perhaps all-encompassing versus
Hmm.
what they were, say, 5 years ago, and
Yeah.
for sure when they first began to surface 25 years ago. So the TMS is really about not just setting expectations, but providing how well you're fulfilling against those expectations, whether they be
Hmm.
established benchmarks, guaranteed shipments. It also enables a company to be much more proactive. We'd much rather
Hmm.
know that it's not going to be there before we hit our promise date, right?
Yeah.
And if something needs to shift, I mean, let's face it, many times manufacturing operations, distribution operations
Yeah.
are wanting to control cost and that, raw material cost or working capital and inventory. And a
Hmm.
TMS platform is a vital place where people get information, but also
Hmm.
involve information to route and predict, show up and stage shipments so that things are much more reliable. And
Hmm.
with the induction of artificial intelligence into these platforms, I think it helps people understand the planning process to even know before you commit, are you going to be able to make it? Take, for example, the
Hmm.
winter storm we just had, right? So you wouldn't have want to made a guaranteed promise in Dallas,
Hmm.
Texas, for yesterday morning at 8 a.m. the Thursday before, right? The
Yep.
system might have said you can do it, right? You can get there in 24 hours with a rest over the weekend,
Oh my
but
gosh.
hello, right? So
Yeah.
systems are evolving. They're becoming much more data hungry and much more multi-tenant in terms of the incorporation of data elements to make a more predictable judgment about when freight will arrive.
Yeah, so it's more of taking a holistic view. It's kind of getting out of the trees and or getting out of the, looking at the tree and getting up to the forest level view to see what's going on, and being able to react faster to everything that's coming at you, including the weather and other things like that. So, what kind of, we touched a little bit on it, just weather just now, but what other shipment behaviors start to emerge when you start to kind of look at this and look across thousands of shipments or loads, and looking at it from a proactive standpoint? What are some of the shipment behaviors they're starting to look at?
Well, let's look at the relationship between a shipper and a 3PL. So two
Hmm.
things. Tolerance for surprises has really collapsed, right?
People don't like
And the
surprises.
expectation,
Yeah.
no, and the expectation of proactive communication has exploded. Two
Hmm.
parts play into that: the competency and capability of the individuals that are at the 3PL, as well as
Hmm.
the customer, right?
Hmm.
Do we have enough intelligence to understand what our options are, but what might be happening given circumstances around us? Having kind of that sixth sense, if you will. And that only comes through experience and intentional knowledge
Hmm.
learning. And we want to
Yeah.
know, just as I said, customers want to know before it's late. So
Hmm.
3PLs want fewer check calls that say, where's my stuff? And in other words, a fire drill. So visibility that these platforms offer really help smart people
Yeah.
become even smarter about how to
Hmm.
translate into predictable ETAs and recommended actions. So
Yeah.
we're thinking about things much differently than we have in the past.
That's really great. That's really great. Um, so it sounds like that pattern recognition has really been a turning point in freight intelligence. That behavioral piece is really becoming something that's transforming the way that we manage all of this and manage our supply chain.
Well, let's think about visibility from, status to intelligence. Let's build on
Hmm.
this just a little bit. So
Yeah.
Seeing freight and then
Hmm.
interpreting freight behavior are two different things. One is at
Hmm.
present and one is more prediction. So
Yeah.
the truck is here. That's easy, right? Okay, we know it's there. Either
Yeah.
somebody told us, they keyed it in, or GPS said that's where the truck is. The
Yeah.
lane the carrier is using and the
Hmm.
risk of additional dwell time or routing. So
Yeah.
this is like this route is trending late and awareness that this can happen. So you can think
Hmm.
about TMS alerts going both ways, one to the logistics planner and then
Hmm.
also to the customer. So visibility on both sides and the interaction between the
Yeah.
two that exists today redefines how we're using visibility clearly from freight data and then interpretation and turning that into behaviors and all sharing in that together between the execution side and the receiver side.
Yeah. I really like the way you put that. Um, so let's talk through an example where a shipment just looks fine. Where everything in a traditional model of, hey, it's en route or it's been picked up, it's en route. What's an example we could walk through where it might actually be at high risk operationally, something that is going on beneath the scenes or behind the tracking update that they're not seeing that could be potentially disruptive?
Yeah, well, this is one that I love. You have a route planned, and let's
Hmm.
assume for a minute it's really high value, high risk freight. So it's sole
Hmm.
sourced, the only source, and if it doesn't get there on time, it's going to shut the machine down. Okay, the manufacturing process.
Hmm.
And the carrier runs into their own constraints, be it driver illness, truck availability, mechanical failure, or whatever. And the other
Hmm.
option is they outsource it to somebody else who doesn't know the particular requirements of the load. The TMS tells you that there's a pause and rerouting is in process. You don't know what that is. And all of a sudden, it's telling you it's on the rail.
Hmm.
So, and it was needed tomorrow. It's now
Oh,
going to be there in 5 days, right? So the
yeah.
alternative is a lack of that value added partnership and understanding between the service provider, be it 3PL or the
Hmm.
freight handling company directly, whoever that might be, and
Hmm.
the customer's requirements, what to do and what not to do. So it's really a bad day when things don't go well and you don't know why they're not going well. You find out information wise, or it comes in later, only to find that it's been rerouted and it's
Hmm.
been changed in terms of not just rerouting, but a different mode. And for
Hmm.
whatever reason, your single trailer load of the most valuable raw material is transiting on a different mode like rail. And, your
Oh
plant is now
man.
facing a serious shutdown and you can't get it
Hmm.
off, right? You can't get it
Yeah.
off till it hits the yard.
Hmm.
So these are risks still today that are prevalent in our business. The other one is somebody's keeping an eye on your freight that shouldn't be and gets into
Hmm.
your ecosystem and it's
Yeah.
stolen. So again, we're not going to know about this until the 11th and a half hour when we realize that a trailer and dwell is
Hmm.
been noticed, and 2 hours earlier that ping didn't come in on time and the freight
Yeah.
it's been dispatched to someone else
Yeah.
that shouldn't have it. So like
Mm.
these scenarios,
Hmm.
these are very important contextually, but also operationally that put things at risk.
Yeah. I like that you talked about the human element, knowing knowing the customer, knowing their shipping profile, knowing their needs. If it's, we have a large 3PL customer of ours that's services the auto manufacturing industry. And if one of the auto manufacturers, one of the major ones out there, it's a significant fine if you actually shut down their production facilities. And a lot of that risk can even fall on the 3PLs for missing those shipments, and some of those fines can be passed through contractually. So we see that where there's a huge element of that where the customer really wants to, the 3PL really needs to understand the customer, their production lines, everything like that. And then now in this new world we're living in where automation's taking over and AI and everything like that, we need to train those AI agents and train those models to understand the customers as well, and look for those different behavioral cues, and look for that in the system.
I was just going to say, it sounds like we're really trending more towards decision support here,
Mm-hmm.
because, failure in the pipeline, wherever it may be, and we're talking about specifically the logistics part of the supply chain,
Mm-hmm.
which is major and critical, both front end of the raw material or inbound finished goods, and also the outbound to final
Mm-hmm.
distribution or customer, depending on
Yeah.
how you operate, right, as a
Mm-hmm.
company and understanding the decision points and the decision support that's needed when using AI and training those bots. This is where the
Mm-hmm.
human element is difficult to override. It's going to take
Mm-hmm.
time. And some may already have it close, but still, it's going to take time to understand that what's
Yeah.
been suggested can be implemented. And,
Hmm.
when we run into constraints that are more DOT and FMCSA related, right, the
Hmm.
regulatory side, you got to be really
Yeah,
careful.
absolutely. And I think that kind of ties into one of our notes here that we had was really about seeing intelligent systems as a second set of eyes instead of a replacement for human judgment. I think it's really important and critical. And everybody thinks AI is coming for my job and these new technologies are going to reduce workforces. But I think there's so much at stake that I don't think there ever could be. That runaway AI handles everything itself, makes all its own decisions itself. Element to it. Is that kind of what you guys are seeing? And what are people's thoughts around AI and how it's going to impact their jobs in this current supply chain?
Well, you've asked a very big question, and I'll touch on it in two different points.
Yeah.
Thinking back to May of 2023, when Dr. Yossi Sheffi from MIT released one of his latest books, The Magic Conveyor Belt. It's
Hmm.
more about the human intersection of artificial intelligence and workforce. And he stated in there that supply chains are here for the betterment of society, right?
Hmm.
Taking care of humankind. And that was in the preface of the book. The interesting thing is that when we look at AI coming to part of our work ecosystem, there are certain
Hmm.
segments, there are, mundane tasks, repeated tasks
Hmm.
that perhaps are best automated. And you mentioned the automobile sector. They demonstrated that really well with single arm or multi-armed robotics in the
Hmm.
manufacturing and assembly process of a car,
Absolutely.
right? Spot welding and, picking pieces up and holding them in place and, those kind of things that, helps not only speed up the assembly line and produce more
Hmm.
cars per day, but perhaps takes away the things that would otherwise be, long-term health risk because of body motion and those kind of things. But also just repeatability and accuracy can be improved. And then making smarter
Hmm.
machines, adapting to variances and those kind of things to know intuitively that it's better to put, a half an ounce of weld versus three-quarter of an ounce, an ounce, and I can create
Hmm.
the same hole. Machines possibly can learn this, right, through
Yeah.
adaptation. There are other jobs that, and you think about workforce development, there are, cobots working
Hmm.
alongside of individuals in warehousing when it comes to picking and packing product to ship out to, to the next part of the food chain or supply chain.
Hmm.
And then there's the total fear of having very sophisticated roles such as data analytics and
Yeah.
and really in our procurement business, assembling contracts using chatbots to
Hmm.
do that or artificial intelligence, like ChatGPT. They can all turn out great frameworks. And that's something that probably would have taken, a paralegal some time or even a
Hmm.
contract expert a little bit of time to develop in terms of days, maybe even weeks when you do spot checking back and forth. Now we can produce a full contract in a matter of seconds that you
Hmm.
now then can evaluate and fine tune as a procurement specialist in the supply chain.
Hmm.
So the whole spectrum of how we do our work, how we
Hmm.
assist our work, and how we execute our work is changing and it's evolving. It's not stapled down yet. We're a
Yeah.
long way away from that. One thing about supply chain is we've been on this journey of improvement. And had we not have evolved from the power sources in supply chain, from steam generation to electric to now where we are today, right?
Yeah.
Propulsion, we wouldn't be doing things that we're doing now. So data
Yeah.
centers, all of this. So I would say that as people look at AI, what our BEM members are telling us is help us understand the success and the pitfalls so we can make gradual but informed step changes. And some of those step changes are really big, right? Really
Hmm.
big, really
Absolutely.
valuable. So it depends on the industry vertical that they're in, and of course where they are in that supply chain, whether they're a raw
Hmm.
material or provider of some kind, technology or final finished good manufacturer.
Yeah.
It varies a lot, but AI is being looked at broadly, and I
Hmm.
would say reasonably deep
Yeah.
across the supply chain, particularly in areas where humans supplementing work with that humans can do and make them that much more efficient. Job replacement,
Hmm.
not a big fear. I mean, didn't we say
Yeah.
that about computers 50 years ago? You know, think about the
Yeah.
movie Apollo 13, and I'm referencing a great movie with Tom
Oh,
Hanks, right? When he
phenomenal.
introduced family to a computer that was a huge
Yeah.
room and said 1 megabyte of information in here, right?
Oh my
Look at where we
gosh.
are now today, right?
Yeah.
We're carrying these things with gigabytes. So it
Insane.
will continue to evolve, and AI will continue to have its place, and it will help us become that much more efficient
Yeah.
along the way. But trials and tribulations definitely will be a part of the course.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So where do you see it going, and where do you see us at now, and where do you see us going in the next 3 to 5 years? How is that going to impact what we're doing today and freight platforms that are out there, and with all the different technology advancing as it is?
I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. So I've already talked about the human element, right?
Hmm.
And you can take it from job replacement to supplemental, right to the job, et cetera. Decision making, AI output, is it good? Is it
Hmm.
not? Can I use it? Liability, all this. The human mind makes those decisions,
Yeah.
not a machine.
Hmm.
So how do you know? How do you validate that the output is reasonable? Well, you have to have
Yeah.
a body of knowledge in logistics. Maybe you're in planning,
Hmm.
maybe you're in procurement and sourcing, maybe you're in manufacturing, customer service, distribution. The first thing that is paramount, and it doesn't
Hmm.
matter whether you went to a 4 year school, came out of high school and went right to the workforce, and now going back to junior college and taking courses to help enable you to understand, you must
Yeah.
know and understand how supply chains work and the functions that enable supply chains to exist. If you don't,
Hmm.
you are already behind the eight ball, because no
Yeah.
machine is going to replace the knowledge that you need to vet, validate, and implement. No machine. I haven't
Yeah.
seen it yet. Now, yeah, we get in airplanes and we know the pilot up front is perhaps taking off, flying, and landing completely in a remote control scenario. But they're
Hmm.
also looking at the gauges. They're also understanding what
Yeah.
they're looking at in terms of, are we or are we not going to be okay when we get to the next theoretical mile marker in the air, right? It's not about the
Hmm.
nose of the plane. It's what's next. What's going to happen when I get there? And is the machine doing okay?
Yeah.
That pilot has the body of knowledge I'm talking about. Without that, the machine might fly on its own, but the moment it's in trouble, good luck, right? So this is
Yeah.
the challenge. It's skilled workforce development, and this is for everyone, including
Yeah.
leaders in supply chain. You build competitive advantage by developing your people. And that's first and
Hmm.
foremost, right?
I
The
love
second
that.
part of our journey, right? The second part of our journey comes from those that are inventing the technology. I love it.
Hmm.
It was about 3 years ago when one of the leaders at Google said, I got 2,500 people working on AI. Nobody can explain to me what it does. Beautiful. Fantastic. Right? So, but here's where I'm at. Here's where I'm
Yeah.
at. That might have been a quip. It's just, a fast comment in
Yeah.
passing. And you think about the evolution. It wasn't that long ago
Yeah.
we weren't talking about AI, right?
Hmm.
So here's the point I'm making is all of these systems, all of the producers of the semiconductors, all of the folks that are developing the technologies for shippers and practitioners to use in their operations have to
Yeah.
be better teachers. You are accountable, right?
Mm.
You
I
can't
like
show
that.
up and give us eye candy. You've got
Yeah.
to help us implement, and that's part of the value proposition that shippers need to be prepared to pay for. If you want a
Hmm.
greater success outcome, find a partner that can lead you to success. It's
Yeah.
it's the third alternative. It's not win-win. It's when ideas culminate together and you create something even better. Frankly, that's what got us to the moon in 1969. That kind of
Yeah.
thing must happen today.
I can't wait to see where it's going to go and what's
I'm
the next
excited.
step.
Oh,
Oh, it's super
I'm excited.
exciting. Just some of the technology advances you've just talked about, even here and thinking back. Yeah. Like when we went to the moon and what computers looked like and how we got to where we're at now, or robotics and automotive components, just like all the different places where it's been transformed and how fast it's evolving is really awesome. What's the biggest barrier right now, or the biggest barrier to the shift happening into really taking data and machine learning and the human element and kind of blending them together? Is it the technology maturity? Is it data quality? Is it organizational mindset? Like, what is the biggest kind of roadblock or thing that you guys are educating on right now?
It's all of the above. And the
Hmm.
conversation goes one way versus another, depending on who's in the room or who's entertaining the conversation and what,
Hmm.
what interest they have. But it's all of what you just said, Matthew. And you said it fairly concisely. So the thing I think we see more than anything is adoption
Hmm.
and adaptation. And I'm really talking about artificial intelligence and bringing a higher level of if you will, work productivity and
Mm-hmm.
reliability to what supply chains do. It's also about sustainability. It's about doing the
Mm-hmm.
right things right for society. And I'm cutting across ethical,
Mm-hmm.
economic, fair play, and
Yeah.
environmental, right? All three
Yeah.
E's play into that. And AI can clearly help us with all of that. But I would say that on the journey ahead, and it's what might be standing in front of us is the same thing we've always faced. It's more visible now because
Mm-hmm.
we have somewhat of a moderated growth in our global economy, and still in the
Yeah.
U.S., growth is there. But
Mm-hmm.
we don't have anybody holding up signs saying, all of us are winning. Let's do more. Let's rest now because we've made billions, right? No,
Yeah.
we're all trying to figure out how to navigate the economy we're in while we're trying to predict the next steps that are going to occur
Yeah.
geopolitically that affect our face of our organization around the world, where we do
Mm-hmm.
business and who we do business with, and the cost of doing that. So we have a
Yeah.
lot of man-made, if you will, impacts. So what might be holding back progress is everybody's pitch as a divisional leader. You got the chief
Mm-hmm.
procurement officer, you got the VP of logistics, you got the VP of customer service, and on planning, coming to the chief supply chain officer and saying, I got a great idea. I got a great idea. No, I got a better idea. No, 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 no. So, and there's a limited amount of cash because cash
Yeah.
is being preserved just a bit right now, right? People are
Yeah.
trying to figure out their true cost position and they're
Mm-hmm.
looking for ways to add kind of a super invoked level of efficiency, right?
Yeah.
So super effectiveness, containing cost, better if you can take cost out, despite tariffs and everything else, but also enabling the business to do more with less, right? What kind of
Mm-hmm.
intelligence does this bring us? And then, inside a company, yeah, data quality and all that stuff with any IT platform, doesn't matter whether it's
Yeah.
AI or whatever, you got to have good data. You got to have predictable data and
Oh,
reliable
absolutely.
data, right? Because so
Yeah.
many implementations over time have cut up and butchered ERP systems for the sake of getting one project done before another. And the
Mm-hmm.
modules have been changed and they're not there in their usual form. So you got to cleanse data and realign. But that's all
Mm-hmm.
part of the kind of the grassroots level of any implementation, whether it's AI or
Yeah.
not. The biggest constraint we're facing just overall is business cost pressure versus the amount of money we have to invest. And
Mm-hmm.
there's an appetite for risk that varies as well. Some companies are risk adverse, some are risk neutral, and
Yeah.
some are really risk aggressive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of this is depending on where people are at, back to your original question and the
Yeah.
sub bullets you asked about.
Yeah. So what's one mindset shift that you would recommend that people start to take to kind of keep up with this and to kind of usher in this new wave of visibility and data and turning that into signals?
Well, it's really about make meaning, right? Make
Mm-hmm.
real meaning. It's the so what factor. Um, in my 37-year career in corporate America, I won some and lost some. Sometimes I was in the cover of time, and other times I was doing time. And particularly when it came to invoking technology, I
Yeah.
was a believer. I was the believer that people can do anything if they put their minds to it, and there
Yeah.
are other impacts that get in the way that aren't always understood in the front end. So, I think breaking through the barriers of where we are today and seeing real
Mm-hmm.
advantage like smarter intelligence in TMS systems, better logistics planning, predictive
Mm-hmm.
analytics. Same thing with demand and manufacturing planning. This is where AI has a real chance to help us out. Also in the contracting and other stages of the supply chain, communication,
Mm-hmm.
better ways to understand how to serve our customers. All of this comes with time that needs to be invested to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to figure out, it's the same old adage. This is not new.
Yeah.
You got to figure out where you're going to make the most meaning. What's the so what factor? Great that all this is around me or available
Mm-hmm.
to us as a leader, as a company, but where
Yeah.
can you make the most meaning? What is the biggest gap in your business and can it be solved through technology and then proof texting that and then moving quicker? The thing I'd say today is, 10 years ago, we left the world of everything's got to be behind the firewall for data preservation. We got really good at
Mm-hmm.
ISO, SOC 2 compliance and everything else. Now, there's still impacts, right?
Yeah.
We know that if you leave a gate open overnight, somebody's going to get in there and
Yep.
steal your stuff. So, okay, right? That's with
Yeah.
everything, with everything we invent, there's risk.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have to get better at covering that. But where I'm going with this is that, to bring smarter, more beneficial value to the consumer is when
Mm-hmm.
you truly invoke business process optimization and technology that makes real
Mm-hmm.
meaning for your customer. That's where you make more money. That's where you satisfy the demand of the consumer. And that's where supply chain really does great things for society. Those three things have to come into play.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. That was actually something we did with our AI initiatives over the last year, as well as just our product roadmap building for just the entire platform, was really trying to invite in decision makers, not from just in our company, but from our clients, to come in and say, well, here's the things we're talking about. What are you guys talking about? What are your customers talking about? What, at the end of the day, we went back and force ranked everything that we had learned from our customers and from their customers and everything like that. And we kind of looked at the roadmap and said, what's going to be the biggest impact? What's going to help people the most in this before we really ever lay in a single line of code on anything with our technology platform? Let's really dig down to what is the most impactful thing for the end customer. Because if you don't start there, I think you miss a lot.
Yeah, and I think you're spot on, 100%.
Yeah.
It's customer first, but our
Mm-hmm.
people really matter. These new technologies create a high degree of people stress in organizations, and you see that through some of the more recent studies about has AI or technology added value in the way I do my work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these surveys are a bit suspect in relationship to how people feel about their employers. I may
Yeah.
be doing a great thing for me, but I really don't like my boss. One is my score, right? He brought me the A. He or she brought me the A. So
Yeah.
you gotta have kind of ways to filter, the highs and lows out. But when you look at it, it's a mix. People
Yeah.
say that it either creates value or doesn't. And if it's not
Yeah.
creating value, or even if it is it creating more stress on the job, right? Is the
Mm-hmm.
satisfaction of how I do my work for my employer, am I appreciated for learning these new technologies and bring a better work habit to this company so it can do the better
Yeah.
things for customers? Am I appreciated for what I do?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
investing in people so they can learn. We're not going to be able to
Mhm.
create advantages. And I don't know what you heard from, your customers and prospects when you brought them in to help fine tune and dial up or down
Mhm.
your technology. But if that's missing, it's a really good reason to go back and just ask
Mhm.
those questions, because it's not about
Absolutely.
what the leaders of the company say we need or where we're working. It's really about the people and how do they feel about this. And companies that get this right, they're
Yeah.
attractive employers, and they're going to be at a higher level of net promoter score from their customers to say, company I want to do business with, right? Yep, absolutely.
So, if we've started here in visibility in terms of freight technology, what's chapter 2 of freight technology and where it's heading? If visibility is kind of our starting point here, what, in your opinion, what's the next step?
Well, the high speed answer is lights out. Nobody needs to come to work anymore. The computers are going to take over everything, right? That's what we
Yeah.
said 50 years ago.
Yeah.
No,
Uh,
back to my comment, Matthew. I'm joking, of
yeah.
course, but it's discovery.
Yep.
So
I
I
like
think
that.
between those that are creating the technologies and those that are using it,
Hmm.
in order for it to be adopted, has to
Hmm.
be adaptability. Does it
Yeah.
adapt to the ecosystem which we work? So
Mhm.
certainly logistics professionals that are thinking about what's next, and the
Yeah.
inventors, right, coming together and just strategizing on a continual basis. It
Yeah.
should be part of your quartile business meetings with your technology and logistics providers, your 3PLs. And it should be more than just a question or two. It should be a really great round robin, and should be prompted.
Yeah.
It should be
Hmm.
prompted by what the 3PL or the service provider, the technology provider is hearing from others.
Yeah.
Is, what do you think of this? What if it did this, right? Let me demonstrate how this could work. And
Hmm.
then letting the business go back and think about, yeah, this could have merit, but if you just do this, it has a better appetite for us. So
Hmm.
we do better when we go together. Okay, let me just say it
Yeah.
this way. When we do something for ourselves, we solve a
Hmm.
problem for today. When we go together, we solve problems possibly for a lifetime. So the supply chain has to go together.
Wow.
It's a chain for a reason. We're all
Yeah.
interconnected. Like, let's use the example. Sorry, I'm going to say it. let's use the example of not 2018 when the first 301
Yeah.
tariffs came out, when everybody, was on the floor of the bus when they had a sudden 25% cost increase. Let's go to January of 20 when we were in the
Yeah.
thick of a worldwide shutdown.
Mm-hmm.
And we discovered that then multi-service providers in the procurement world were kind of a blind screen to how everything else worked upstream. And
Mm-hmm.
many companies found that MSPs were great service points. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong
Yeah.
with it. You'll see where I'm going, right? It's kind of like the
Yeah.
cartoon of where you pull into a gas station, you got three pumps, you
Mm-hmm.
got premium, mid-grade, and regular, right? And
Yeah.
below the ground, the three pipes are going into the same tank, right? As a joke. Uh, that wasn't a joke during COVID. People
Yeah.
discovered how these things, how networks really worked. And before
Mm-hmm.
that, we weren't coming together often enough. Smart companies probably were, but
Mm-hmm.
everybody else that also ran world of procurement and sourcing and
Yeah.
manufacturing and head of design. Oh, it's working. We can buy steering wheels from these three MSPs. We're good.
Yeah.
The steering wheels were coming from the same manufacturing plant. So when it shut down, nobody
Yeah.
had anything, right?
Yep.
So that's what I'm saying today is that we've become smarter,
Mm-hmm.
but we have to get even smarter yet around
Yeah.
how the entire supply chain works in the business and the verticals that we're in. And we
Yeah.
have to all come together to make the solution stronger. We still
Yeah.
figured out how to get toilet paper to the consumer. It just took us a while to change the manufacturing line from commercial to home versus right. But we got
Yeah.
it done, right? We got
Yep.
everything done, right? Hats off to
Mm-hmm.
the supply chain.
Yeah.
So we will continue to get it done if we
Yeah.
continue to work together in the spirit by which the supply chain is designed. We'll get it
Mm-hmm.
done.
I love that. I love that. So one last parting thought. I just want to get in one sentence. What does intelligent freight mean to you?
It means the ability to see where the naked eye of the human can't see,
Mm-hmm.
and alone just by using traditional means of data before us actually
Yeah.
gets us to a better place, right? Truly
Yeah.
helping us uncover what we cannot see for the benefit of making better decisions now.
I love that. I love that. Well, Mark, I really appreciate your time. And now for the fun part where well, not that any of this wasn't fun. This is actually really awesome. I'm really excited we had this conversation, but tell us about CSCMP, where we can find you guys. Are you guys coming up at any shows? Are you going to be attending any shows this year, or where can they learn more about you guys?
Bev, I got a deal for you. So first and foremost, membership has its privileges. So the
Mm-hmm.
many exclusive programs that we put together for our members that bring some of the best authors and content creators, service providers, and BCOs together under technically one roof is a great place to be, and it's very affordable. So you
Absolutely.
can find us at cscmp.org.
Mm-hmm.
For the executives, we have the Executive Inner Circle. For everyone
Mm-hmm.
else, and the executives, we have the whole ecosystem of learning in terms of
That's great.
roundtables around the world, right? Where you can interact in live scenarios with industry
Yeah.
professionals. But we also have our annual global conference coming
Mm-hmm.
up in Nashville, which is October 5th, 4th through the 7th. And
Mm-hmm.
then also our European conference, the 11th and 12th of June in Madrid, Spain. We also have other micro conferences around the world, and they can all be found on our website. So we invite
That's
anybody
really
to
great.
participate. Your whole
Yeah.
company can become a member of CSCMP. You don't have to be in supply chain.
That's really great. Thank you for keeping us in the loop on that and filling us in on that and joining us today. For everybody else, thank you as well for joining this episode of the Tire Tracks podcast. Please do subscribe to the podcast to keep up with our Intelligent Freight mini series that we have going on, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.